In the cold dark of space, far from the eyes of the galaxy's great powers, something new was growing. Not with noise or war drums, but in silence. On the edge of human space, near the frozen rocks of what they once called the Kuiper Belt, something massive was being built. No one saw it coming. The Galactic Council had watched humanity for decades. They saw them as latecomers to the stars, slow, weak, and easy to ignore. Humans had only reached nearby planets a few years ago. They had no psionic abilities like the Zarnathi, no ancient tech like the Virex. They were just human, and that made them easy to overlook. What the Council didn't know was that while their diplomats smiled and their scientists studied alien ships, a small group on Earth had been working in secret. It started quietly. A mining company won a contract to explore asteroids beyond Pluto. Strange, since there was nothing valuable out there. Or so everyone thought. Then came the construction crews. Not many, just enough to seem normal. Solar panels were placed, sensors installed, deep space scanners set up. But behind the scenes, real work began. Ships arrived under fake registry codes. Materials were smuggled in through trade loopholes. Cloaking tech, borrowed from stolen alien wreckage, was tested and improved. Soon shipyards appeared in the void, huge, hidden behind fake asteroid fields and powered by fusion reactors built underground on dead moons. It took years. No one, outside the project, knew. Even within Earth's governments, only a few leaders were told the full truth. The rest believed it was just another defense program. Something to scare pirates. Nothing more. The people who worked on the project came from all over. Some were military, some were engineers, others were criminals given a second chance. They all had one thing in common. They believed humanity was being treated like a child in a room full of monsters. They wanted to change that. At the heart of the operation stood Commander Elliot Harper, a quiet man with sharp eyes and sharper instincts. He had served in the Navy before joining the Space Command. When most officers talked about peace and diplomacy, Harper prepared for war. He didn't hate aliens. He just didn't trust them. Next, to him was Dr. Maria Delgado. She was brilliant, maybe even a genius. She had once worked on clean energy projects until she disappeared from public life. Now she ran the core research lab inside the main shipyard. She cracked the code on fusion core propulsion ahead of schedule. She found ways to make shields last longer. She turned old alien tech into something new, something human. Together, they led a team that built something no one expected. Ships. Lots of them, not the kind you see in movies. These were faster, tougher, and smarter. They used AI pilots for speed, but real humans still commanded them. They carried weapons designed to punch through energy shields. Their armor was made from a mix of earth metals and alien alloys. They called them Storm-class frigates, sleek, deadly, built for stealth and strike. Dozens became hundreds. Every ship was built in secret. Every launch timed to avoid detection. The workers kept logs, but they were encrypted. Communication was done through tight beam signals. If anyone noticed, they never said anything. Why? Because those who did ask questions sometimes disappeared. Not violently, just gone, reassigned, retired, forgotten. Earth's leaders knew the risk. If the Galactic Council found out, they could call it an act of war. They could shut it down, maybe even destroy it. But they didn't, because the humans were careful. They didn't build warships alone. They built whole systems, hidden bases, fuel stations, repair yards, supply chains that looped through friendly colonies. They even trained pilots in secret simulators, teaching them how to fight alien tactics. One pilot was Daniel Cruz, a former Marine now flying the newest fighter models. He didn't know where his training was coming from. He just followed orders, flew missions, learned new tricks. He wasn't alone. On Mars, in the red dust, another base grew beneath the surface. On Titan, ice was mined for fuel. On Ceres, a fake mining guild controlled half the asteroid belt. The entire time, the Council laughed. They watched human diplomats beg for entry into the bigger clubs. They saw tiny colonies struggle with alien traders. They heard human leaders talk about peace and cooperation, and they never once looked behind the curtain. Because why would they? Humans weren't a threat. Humans weren't smart enough. Humans couldn't keep secrets. They were wrong. Deep in the void, the final pieces of the plan were falling into place. The first wave of ships was ready. The AI cores had passed final testing. The pilots were trained. Commander Harper stood on the bridge of the flagship watching the stars. Next to him, Dr. Delgado checked the countdown. Everything was set. Soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when you underestimated a species that survived ice ages, wars, disease, and fire, just to reach the stars. Soon, they would see. Not just a handful of ships, not just a new weapon, but a force unlike anything they had ever known, a secret human fleet, and it was ready to rise. The Galactic Council met as it always did, high above the surface of Virex Prime, inside a massive floating chamber that looked like it had been carved from crystal and bone. Around a circular table sat the leaders of the galaxy's oldest species. Some had ruled for centuries. Others had minds so advanced they could predict wars before they began. They were powerful. They were ancient. And to them, humans were still children playing with fire. Ambassador Rachel Voss stood at the center of the chamber, her dark suit sharp against the glowing floor. She was calm but not nervous. She had spoken to these beings many times before. She knew their voices, their rules, their pride. She also knew they would never say yes. "Humanity has grown," she said, her voice steady. "We have built colonies. We trade. We follow your laws. We ask now, not for favors, but for respect, full membership in the Galactic Council." A silence followed. Then came the laughter. It started with the Zarnathi, a tall, insect-like race with voices like broken glass. Then the Virex joined in, smooth-skinned and cold-eyed. The others followed. Not all laughed out loud, but the message was clear. "No, you speak of growth," said the Virex envoy, his voice like wind through stone. "But what do you bring to the council? You have no ancient weapons, no psionic gifts. Your ships are slow. Your people argue among themselves. How can we trust you to help decide the fate of the stars?" Rachel didn't flinch. "We bring something older than psionics," she said. "Older than empires. We bring will. We bring resilience. We bring the ability to survive when others fall." Another pause. Then the Zarnathi speaker leaned forward. "If you wish to be seen as equals, prove it. Bring proof of strength. Show us you are not just another failed colony trying to wear armor too big for its body." Rachel bowed slightly and left the chamber without another word. She already knew what was coming, what none of them saw. Back on Earth, the signal had already gone out. Every human colony went silent. Trade ships vanished. Communication relays shut down. Mining stations powered off. Even the small scientific outposts near alien worlds stopped sending reports. To the outside eye, humanity had disappeared. But in truth, they were moving. In secret shipyards hidden behind asteroid belts and cloaked moons, the fleet began to awaken. AI cores booted up. Engines warmed. Weapon systems ran final checks. Commander Elliot Harper stood on the bridge of the United Earth, watching the data stream in. "All colonies are secure," said Admiral Nina Choi, standing beside him. "No leaks, no panic, they really think we're weak." Harper gave a small smile. "Good." Dr. Maria Delgado walked onto the bridge holding a small tablet. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was strong. "The quantum relay network is online," she said. "We can jump anywhere in known space within seconds. The fleet is ready." Harper nodded. He turned to Captain Isaac Brooks, who had spent years training pilots in secret simulators. "Tell our people this isn't just a mission," he said. "This is a message, a warning, a beginning." Brooks saluted. "Aye, sir." Hours later, the first wave moved. Without warning, the United Earth and 50 Storm-class frigates jumped into hyperspace. Their destination, Virex Prime. Not to attack, not yet, but to be seen. The moment they arrived, every sensor in the system lit up. Every defense station scrambled. Ships that had never heard of human warcraft suddenly found themselves staring at sleek, black vessels that moved like ghosts. No weapons fired, no threats made. Just one message, sent across every channel in the galaxy. To the Galactic Council, we've been watching you, we've learned from you. Now it's time you learn from us. The room where the council met fell into silence. For the first time in centuries, they had nothing to laugh about. On the bridge of the United Earth, Harper watched the response come in. Some called it an act of war. Others demanded immediate retaliation. But one message from Earth changed everything. All human citizens remain calm. This is not an invasion. This is a declaration. Humanity is no longer asking for a seat at the table. We are here to build our own. Across the galaxy, hidden bases activated. Mars lit up with energy as underground. Launch pads opened. Titan released drones into orbit. Ceres launched supply ships toward waiting fleets. Everywhere, the truth became clear. This wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a bluff. Humans had been preparing for a long time, and now they were ready. The galaxy had ignored them for too long. Now they had no choice but to pay attention, because the secret human fleet had risen, and it was only the beginning. The message had been sent. Across known space, every species heard it. Some laughed at first, thinking it a joke. Others panicked, unsure what to believe. But most, especially the members of the Galactic Council, felt something they hadn't felt in centuries. Fear. No one had expected this. A human fleet appearing out of nowhere, perfectly coordinated, fully armed, and silent. Not attacking, but not leaving either. Commander Elliot Harper stood on the bridge of the United Earth, watching. As sensor data poured in, ships were moving all over Virex Prime. Fighters launched in waves. Defense stations powered up. The Council was scrambling to respond. Good. He turned to Admiral Nina Choi. They're trying to call for help, he said. Block all outbound signals. Aye, she replied. Already on it. Behind them, Dr. Maria Delgado monitored the quantum relay network. She made sure no other alien fleet could jump in without being seen. The humans had the advantage now, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. On the lower decks, Captain Isaac Brooks oversaw pilot readiness. His best pilots were already suited up, waiting for orders. We're ready to move if they try anything, said Lieutenant Daniel Cruz, his voice steady. He was one of the top fighter pilots in the fleet, trained in stealth attacks and deep space combat. Let's hope it doesn't come to that, Brooks replied. It didn't, not yet. Back on Virex Prime, the Council was in chaos. Ambassador Rachel Voss had returned to Earth before the fleet arrived, but her message had been clear. Humanity was done asking for permission. They weren't here to beg for rights anymore. They were here to claim their place. Inside the council chamber, the Virex envoy paced back and forth. This is an insult, he hissed. They appear in our system with no warning, block communications, and send a message like some warlord? The Zarnathi speaker clicked its mandibles together. It is more than an insult, it said. It is a declaration. One of the smaller species, the Luthari, who rarely spoke, finally raised a hand. And what if they are telling the truth? It asked. What if they have grown stronger? What if we underestimated them? A silence followed. Then the envoy from Rethos, a race known for their cold logic, looked around. They have done exactly what we would have done, he said. They built in secret. They struck when unseen, and now they stand before us not as enemies, but as equals demanding recognition. But they are not equals, the Virex envoy snapped. They are humans, a young species, warlike, emotional, unpredictable. If we allow this to continue, others will follow. You mean you fear losing control? The Rethosi added. Another silence. Outside the chamber, across the city planet of Virex Prime, panic spread. Citizens watched live feeds of the human ships hovering above their world. Some called it a threat. Others saw it as a miracle. For the first time in history, the mighty Galactic Council was not in charge of the moment. Someone else had taken control, and that someone was human. Back aboard the United Earth, Harper gave the order. Maintain position. No aggression unless fired upon. I want every ship in formation. We show strength, not cruelty. Choi nodded. He turned to Delgado. How long can we hold this position? As long as needed, she said. We've got fuel, power, and support from every colony. Even if they cut off the outer systems, we're self-sufficient. Harper smiled slightly. Good. Meanwhile, covert ops teams had already begun their missions. Daniel Cruz led a small squad of elite operatives through a hidden route into a nearby Virex military station. Their job: gather intel, plant surveillance, and leave no trace. They succeeded. Inside a secured room filled with alien tech, Cruz accessed a central database and downloaded everything. Defense plans, troop movements, even old war records. Got it, he whispered. Time to go. They left without anyone noticing. Hours later, the data was uploaded to the flagship. Delgado studied it closely. They knew about us, she said quietly. At least some of them did. There were reports flagged under minor threats and unconfirmed sightings. They suspected something, but never took it seriously. Harper leaned back in his chair. People always ignore what they don't understand, until it hits them. The following day, the Council tried to speak with humanity again. A secure channel opened between the United Earth and the Council's command center. Rachel Voss appeared on screen, standing beside a few high-ranking Earth officials. We hear your concerns, she said. We do not seek war. We seek respect. The Virex envoy stepped forward. You appear in our system with weapons active. You silence communication. You demand recognition after years of pretending to be weak. How are we supposed to trust you? Voss didn't blink, because we had no reason to trust you either, she said. You laughed at us, denied us membership, treated us like children. So, yes, we prepared, not to harm you, but to make sure we could never be harmed again. There was no immediate reply. Instead, the Council leaders looked at each other. For the first time, they realized the truth. Humans weren't just surviving in space. They were thriving, and they weren't going back. Later that evening, Harper stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at Virex Prime below. Delgado joined him. Do you think they'll ever accept us? She asked. I don't care if they do, he said. We don't need their approval to exist. We proved that today. She nodded. So what now? Now, he said, turning toward the bridge. We show them what happens when you underestimate a species that never gives up. The fleet remained in orbit, silent, watchful, waiting. Not for a fight, but for the moment the galaxy finally understood. Humans were no longer background noise. They were players. And they had just begun. The silence didn't last. Less than a day after the human fleet appeared over Virex Prime, the first real response came. Not from the Galactic Council, they were still arguing among themselves, but from the outer systems. A message arrived, at the United Earth from a small mining colony near the Zarnathi border. We are under attack. They say we must surrender all human presence or face destruction. Commander Elliot Harper read the message twice before speaking. Who attacked? Admiral Nina Choi checked the data stream. A local Zarnathi warlord, she said. Not officially sanctioned by their government, but he's got firepower. He's mobilizing a fleet to wipe out the colony. Harper turned to Captain Isaac Brooks. Send a team. Brooks nodded. Within hours, a small strike force left the main fleet and jumped into hyperspace. They carried no heavy weapons, no massive ships. Just 2 Storm-class frigates and a squadron of fast fighters. They arrived without warning. The enemy fleet was already closing in on the colony when the humans dropped out of hyperspace. The Zarnathi commander had expected an easy victory. What he got was a surprise. The human ships moved like shadows, weaving through enemy fire with perfect timing. AI-guided missiles found gaps in shields. Fighters swarmed like hornets, disabling engines and targeting command modules. It was over in minutes. The Zarnathi ships either fled or surrendered. No civilians were harmed. Back aboard the United Earth, Harper watched the live feed from the colony. Cheers echoed across every channel. People waved flags. Children ran through the streets shouting. Dr. Maria Delgado stood beside him. "They're not used to winning," she said quietly. "No," Harper replied, "but they will be." Across human-controlled space, more reports came in. On Mars, planetary defenses were upgraded overnight. On Titan, new defense drones were deployed. On Ceres, hidden weapons platforms powered up for the first time. Everywhere, humanity was preparing, not for war, but for the possibility of it. Meanwhile, covert operations continued. Lieutenant Daniel, crews led a team to the Zarnathi homeworld under deep cover. Their mission: extract stolen human tech that had been taken during earlier diplomatic visits. They landed in the dead of night, using cloaked shuttles and silent infiltration suits. Inside a military archive building, they found what they were looking for: data cores filled with classified reports on human movements, ship designs, even surveillance footage from Earth itself. Someone had been watching them for years. Crews copied everything and planted a small tracker before leaving. No one saw them come or go. When the files reached Harper, he studied them carefully. "They knew more than we thought," he said. "But not enough." Choi leaned over his shoulder. "They treated us like a curiosity, not a threat," she said. "That's going to change." It already was. Hours later, another message arrived. This time from a neutral system far from Council control. A group of rogue traders had intercepted a secret meeting between several alien factions. They were discussing how to deal with the sudden rise of humanity. Some wanted peace talks, others wanted war, and one faction, the warlike Korak, wanted total destruction. "They see us as a virus," said the trader who sent the message. "They think if they don't kill you now, you'll take over everything." Harper read the report and handed it to Delgado. She looked up at him. "What do we do?" He smiled slightly. "We show them they're right." The next move was bold. Instead of staying in orbit above Virex Prime, the human fleet split into smaller groups. Each one went to a different system where tensions were rising. One group protected a human mining station near Rethos space. Another guarded a trade hub on the edge of Luthari territory. Each time the same thing happened. The moment the aliens tried to push, the humans showed up, and each time the aliens backed down. Because the humans weren't just showing strength, they were showing speed, precision, control. Soon, rumors spread across the galaxy. The humans could appear anywhere. They could strike and vanish before anyone responded. They never wasted energy, never killed needlessly. But they always won. Back on Earth, morale skyrocketed. People who once feared being wiped out by alien powers now felt pride. Schools taught lessons about the fleet. Songs were written about the pilots. Families began naming children after the commanders leading the fight. Humanity wasn't hiding anymore. They were standing tall, and the galaxy was starting to notice. Even the Galactic Council couldn't ignore it. Behind closed doors, arguments broke out. Some members called for immediate action, a full-scale war to bring humans back in line. Others warned against it. "Their technology is advanced," said the Rethosi envoy. "Their tactics are flawless. If we fight them head-on, we may lose." The Virex envoy scowled. "So we let them keep doing this? Let them act like equals," another voice answered. "Why not treat them like equals?" All eyes turned to the Luthari representative. "They have done what many species dream of," she said. "They rose from nothing, they built in silence. And now they stand before us not begging for power, but holding it." There was no reply because there was nothing to say. The truth was clear. Humans had changed the game and they weren't done yet. On the bridge of the United Earth, Harper gave a final order. "Continue the deployments. Protect our people. Show no fear. But don't start a war unless forced." Choi saluted. Delgado looked at the map of known space, now marked with human positions. And somewhere in the dark, the fleet moved again. The first real battle came without warning. It started on the edge of Rethos space near a quiet trade station known as Epsilon 9. The humans had stationed a small fleet there to protect supply lines and ensure safe passage for civilian ships. The Korak saw it as a chance to strike. They came fast, a massive alien armada of jagged warships and heavy cruisers. They didn't ask questions. They didn't send messages. They opened fire the moment they arrived. Lasers tore through space. Missiles streaked across the void. Explosions lit up the dark like dying stars, but the humans were ready. Commander Elliot Harper wasn't there in person, but his orders had been clear. Hold position, protect civilians, and if attacked, respond with full force. Captain Isaac Brooks was in command of the defense fleet. He stood on the bridge of the United Earth, watching the enemy approach. "They're not holding back," said Admiral Nina Choi, standing beside him. Brooks nodded. "Then neither are we." He gave the order. "All ships, form up. Engage enemy forces. Protect the station at all costs." The human fleet moved like one. Storm-class frigates split into coordinated groups, weaving between enemy fire with precision. AI-guided targeting systems locked onto enemy engines and weapons ports. Fighters launched in waves, swarming enemy ships like bees. And then came the surprise. Instead of fighting head-on, the humans used hit-and-run tactics. They struck hard, vanished into cloaking fields, and reappeared behind enemy lines. One ship, the Liberty, led by Lieutenant Daniel Cruz, dove straight into the heart of the Korak formation. Using stolen alien tech, they dropped EMP charges that disabled entire wings of enemy fighters. For the first time in history, the Korak found themselves outmaneuvered. Back aboard the United Earth, Brooks watched the data stream in. "Our shields are holding. Enemy losses are high. We've taken minimal damage." Choi looked at him. "They didn't expect this kind of fight." "No," he agreed. "They thought we were just show, just noise. But now they know." The battle lasted less than an hour. When the dust settled, half the Korak fleet was destroyed. The rest fled into hyperspace, leaving behind burning wrecks and dead pilots. Epsilon 9 was untouched. No civilians lost, no major structures damaged. Only one message was sent after the battle. To any who would attack human space, "You will lose." Across the galaxy, the news spread fast. Humans had fought, humans had won, and they had done it without mercy or fear. On Virex Prime, the Galactic Council reacted in shock. Some called for immediate action, others demanded investigations. A few simply sat in silence, realizing what many had refused to believe before. Humans weren't just surviving, they were winning. Back on Earth, celebrations broke out. People gathered in cities, waving flags and cheering. Schools held lessons on the battle. Families talked about the heroes who had flown into danger and come out alive. Dr. Maria Delgado watched the reports from her lab aboard the United Earth. "This changes everything," she said quietly. Harper stood beside her. "It already did." He turned to his team. "We showed them we can fight. Now we show them we can lead." The next move was bold. Instead of retreating, the human fleet expanded its reach. They deployed new bases near key trade routes. They secured jump points leading to neutral systems. They offered protection to smaller species who had long suffered under the rule of the bigger powers. And people listened. A group of Luthari refugees sent a message asking for help. Their world had been invaded by the Zarnathi, and they had nowhere else to turn. Harper read the request and responded within minutes. "We'll be there." Hours later, a second wave of human ships jumped into hyperspace. They arrived above the Luthari homeworld, just as the final resistance was being crushed. The Zarnathi had built a massive base on the surface, surrounded by orbiting warships. Ground forces were sweeping through the last rebel strongholds. Then the humans appeared, like ghosts, like thunder. The United Earth led the charge. Storm-class frigates dropped from the sky like falling stars. Fighters engaged enemy ships while drop pods landed behind enemy lines. Daniel Cruz led a ground assault with a team of elite soldiers. They moved fast, taking out command centers and disabling weapon systems. Within hours, the tide had turned. The Zarnathi fleet tried to regroup, but the humans were faster. One by one, their ships fell. Some surrendered, others fled. By nightfall, the capital city was free. The Zarnathi commander was captured and handed over to the Luthari leaders. Harper stood in the ruins of the old palace, speaking to the Luthari council. "You don't have to live in fear anymore," he said. "We'll make sure of it." They thanked him, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as protectors. Back in deep space, the human fleet remained active. They had proven their strength. Now they were proving something else: compassion, justice, hope. And with every system they touched, more and more species began to see the truth. Humans weren't just rising, they were becoming something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. Power not built on fear, but on choice. And the decision to do what was right, even when no one else would. As the United Earth prepared for its next mission, Harper stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Behind him, Brooks walked. "Up, what now?" he asked. Harper smiled slightly. "Now we keep going." And they did. Because the secret human fleet had risen, and it wasn't done yet. The galaxy was changing. After the battle at Epsilon 9 and the rescue of the Luthari people, the human fleet had proven more than strength. They had shown purpose. They were not just fighters, they were protectors. And for the first time, species that had lived under fear began to look to Earth for hope. But with power came danger. The Korak did not forget their defeat. The Zarnathi did not forgive their loss. And the Galactic Council still argued over what to do about humanity's sudden rise. Some wanted peace, others wanted war, and a few wanted something worse. They wanted to break the humans from within. Back on Earth, life was different now. People who once feared alien rule now stood taller. Children dreamed of joining the fleet. Scientists worked day and night to improve tech. Even those who had once doubted the military now volunteered to help. Every colony, every station, every ship had become part of a single force, not just a fleet but a family. At the heart of it all stood Commander Elliot Harper. He wasn't a king. He wasn't a god. But he was a leader. On the bridge of the United Earth, he watched reports come in from across space. New bases were being built, trade routes were opening, refugees were arriving, seeking safety under human control. Admiral Nina Choi walked up, beside him. "More systems are asking for protection," she said. "Some are even offering loyalty." Harper nodded. "They see we don't take without giving, that's what sets us apart." Choi looked at him. "But how long before someone tries to stop us?" "Not long," he replied. She was right. The first attack came not from the stars, but from the ground. A bomb exploded in a Martian defense facility. No one claimed responsibility, but the damage was clear. Plans for new shield tech were destroyed. Dozens were injured. Then came the leaks. Secret messages were sent to alien leaders, claiming that the humans were planning to conquer the galaxy. False reports painted them as warmongers, liars, thieves. Someone was trying to turn the galaxy against them. Dr. Maria Delgado found the source first. "It's coming from inside," she told Harper. "There are spies among us, maybe more than one." Harper didn't panic. Instead, he gave an order: "Find them quietly." Lieutenant Daniel Cruz led the hunt. Using old-school detective work and high-tech surveillance, his team traced the leaks to a group of former diplomats who had been working with the council before the fleet rose. They were arrested without a fight. No trials, no public shame. They simply disappeared. It sent a message. Betrayal would not be tolerated. Even as this happened, another threat emerged. A fleet of unknown ships appeared near Titan. Not Korak, not Zarnathi, not any known race. They attacked without warning. Titan's defenses held barely. The human ships responded fast, driving the attackers away before they could land. But the damage was done. These were not random pirates. They were professionals, and they had one goal: to weaken humanity's hold on space. Harper called a meeting with his top officers aboard the United Earth. "We're being tested," he said. "Someone wants to know how strong we really are." Choi crossed her arms. "If they think we'll fall apart, they've made a mistake." Delgado looked at the data. "There's a pattern," she said. "The attacks are always small, always in places we can handle. Whoever's behind this isn't trying to destroy us yet. They're watching how we respond." Harper leaned back. "Then let's give them something to watch." The next move was bold. Instead of hiding, the humans doubled down. New defense lines were built. Every colony got stronger. AI security systems were upgraded. Fighters trained harder. Pilots flew longer missions. And then came the real surprise. Captain Isaac Brooks led a mission to track the unknown attackers. They followed the trail across 3 systems, finally finding a hidden base on a dead moon. Inside, they found proof. The attackers had been hired by a secret group within the Galactic Council, a faction that wanted to bring humanity down before they could grow too powerful. Brooks didn't ask questions. He gave orders. The base was destroyed. No survivors. Back on Earth, Harper released the findings to the public, not just to humans, to the entire galaxy. Everyone saw the truth. The Council had tried to stop them, not with open war, but with shadows, with lies, with fear, and it had failed. Across space, reactions poured in. Some species condemned the Council's actions. Others praised the humans for exposing the truth. A few quietly offered alliances, wanting to stand with the rising power instead of against it. The Council denied everything, of course. But no one believed them anymore, because now, the galaxy knew. Humans had not just survived. They had learned. They had adapted, and they had answered betrayal with strength. As the United Earth moved toward its next mission, Harper stood on the observation deck, looking out at the stars. Beside him, Delgado spoke softly. "Do you think they'll try again?" "Probably," he said. "But we'll be ready." She smiled slightly. "We always are." Below them, the fleet remained strong, silent, watchful, unbroken, and growing stronger every day, because the secret human fleet had risen, and nothing, not lies, not betrayal, not hidden enemies, would make them fall. The galaxy was on the edge of war. After the failed attacks and the exposure of the secret faction within the Galactic Council, tensions rose faster than anyone expected. The Korak called for open war. The Zarnathi demanded revenge. Even the Uibu, once neutral Rithosi, began to prepare their fleets. And the humans? They stood ready. Commander Elliot Harper didn't want war, but he knew it was coming. The message had been sent. Humanity had risen. They had proven strength, skill, and unity. But not everyone wanted them at the table. Some wanted them gone. So Harper made a choice. If they wanted a fight, humanity would give them one they'd never forget. Back on Earth, preparations were already underway. Every colony built new defenses. Every shipyard worked without pause. Fighters trained non-stop. AI systems ran simulations every hour. It wasn't just the military that prepared. Farmers grew more food. Scientists improved energy sources. Teachers taught survival skills. Families packed emergency supplies. Everyone understood what was coming. Not fear, but readiness. On the United Earth, Harper gathered his top officers. "We can't let them come to us," he said. "We need to control where this happens." Admiral Nina Choi looked at the star map. "They'll strike Sol first," she said. "Earth, Mars, Titan. That's where our heart is." Harper nodded. "Then we make sure they regret it." Dr. Maria Delgado studied the tech reports. "Our shield network is nearly complete," she said. "If we activate the solar array, we can power defense stations across the entire system." Harper turned to Captain Isaac Brooks. "Get the fleet ready. We hold the line here." Brooks saluted. "Aye, sir." Across human space, the final pieces fell into place. New bases were built in hidden locations. Supply lines were secured. Civilian ships were moved to safe zones. Every fighter pilot, every soldier, every commander knew their role. Even the smallest. Colonies played their part. On Ceres, engineers modified old mining drones into attack bots. On Mars, planetary defense cannons were upgraded with alien-grade alloys. On Titan, underground shelters were filled with food, water, and medical supplies. Humanity was not hiding. They were waiting. And then, the enemy came. The first wave arrived near Neptune. A massive armada of Korak, Zarnathi, and rogue Virex ships dropped out of hyperspace like thunder. They didn't send messages. They didn't ask questions. They opened fire. The outer defense line held strong. Hidden platforms launched surprise attacks. Fighter swarms hit fast and disappeared before counterattacks could form. Lieutenant Daniel Cruz led a group of pilots through the chaos. "Stay sharp," he shouted over comms. "Hit and fade, don't let them lock on." His team dove into enemy lines, disabling engines and targeting command centers. Explosions lit up the dark as ships fell one by one, but the enemy kept coming. More ships jumped in, bigger ones, heavily armed. The battle spread toward Saturn, then Jupiter, and finally, Sol itself. The United Earth led the charge. Storm-class frigates formed a defensive wall around Earth. Fighters flew in tight formations protecting key targets. Defense stations powered up, firing beams of pure energy into the enemy fleet. And then, the moment came. Delgado stood in the core lab, watching the readings. "It's ready," she said. "The sun-based array is online." Harper gave the order. "Activate." A pulse of light spread across the system. Not a weapon, not a bomb, but something worse. Energy waves surged through space, hitting enemy shields like hammers. Ships caught in the blast lost power. Engines failed. Weapons shorted out. The tide. Brooks saw it first. "They're breaking formation," he said. "Push now." The fleet surged forward. Every ship fired at once. Lasers, missiles, railguns, everything went into the enemy lines. The Korak flagship exploded in a flash of red fire. The Zarnathi command vessel tried to retreat, but fighters cut it off, one by one. The enemy ships fell. Some surrendered. Others fled. Many simply ceased to exist. The battle ended not with a final shot, but with silence. The sky above Earth was clear. The stars shone again, and the humans had won. Back aboard the United Earth, Harper stood on the bridge looking out at the wreckage. Choi walked up beside him. "We did it," she said. "No," he replied. "We proved we could." Delgado joined them. "The losses were heavy," she said, "but we held." Harper nodded. "And now the galaxy knows what we're capable of." Across human space, celebrations began. People cheered in the streets. Children danced. Soldiers embraced. Across every colony, every station, every ship, the truth was clear. Humans had survived. Humans had fought back, and humans had won. But Harper knew this wasn't the end. It was only the beginning, because now the galaxy feared them, now the galaxy respected them, and now no one would ever underestimate humanity again. As the United Earth drifted in orbit, Harper spoke into the comms. "All ships return to base, prepare for what comes next." He turned to his crew. "This was only one battle. We've got a future to build." And so, the fleet remained. Silent, strong, unbroken, because the secret human fleet had risen, and nothing, not war, not fear, not death, would make them fall. The war was over, but the future had only just begun. Across the galaxy, the news spread like fire. The humans, the species once laughed at, ignored, and underestimated, had not only survived a full-scale attack, they had won. Not just one battle, not just a lucky strike. They had crushed their enemies. And now, the galaxy was silent. Not out of fear, but out of respect. On Earth, people gathered in the streets. They lit fires, flew flags, and told stories of the pilots, soldiers, and scientists who had made it all possible. Children played with toy ships shaped like storm-class frigates. Old men talked about how far humanity had come, from caves to stars, from weakness to strength, from silence to power. Commander Elliot Harper stood on the bridge of the United Earth, looking out at the stars. He didn't smile often, but today, he allowed himself a small one. It was done. The enemy had been defeated. The Council had lost its grip. And humanity was no longer asking for a place at the table. They had built their own. Admiral Nina Choi walked up beside him. "Reports are coming in," she said. "Most alien factions are calling for peace talks." Harper nodded. "Some will still fight," he said. "But most know better now." Choi crossed her arms. "What do we do next?" Harper looked at the map of known space, now marked with human-controlled systems, new alliances, and protected colonies. "We rebuild," he said. "We grow. We make sure this never happens again." Dr. Maria Delgado entered the bridge, holding a tablet filled with data. "The SHIELD network is fully active," she said. "Every major colony is protected. Our jump points are secure. We're ready for anything else that comes our way." Harper turned to her. "And what about Earth?" She smiled. "Earth is safe. For now," he looked back out the window. "For now is good enough." Across the fleet, preparations were underway. Some ships returned to base for repairs. Others remained on patrol, watching the edges of human space. Fighters landed after long missions. Pilots rested. Engineers worked non-stop to improve tech. Humanity wasn't going to stop, because now they knew something the rest of the galaxy was still learning. Humans didn't just survive, they thrived. Back on Virex Prime, the Galactic Council met in secret. For the first time in centuries, they were not in control. Their old rules, their old ways, their quiet dominance went all broken. The Korak had lost half their fleet. The Zarnathi had been pushed back. Even the once mighty Virex had suffered heavy losses, and in the middle of it all stood humanity. Unbroken, unbowed, unafraid. One of the Rithosi envoys spoke. "They have proven themselves," he said. "They fought when others would have fallen. They led when others would have hidden. If we do not accept them as equals now, we will be fools." A silence followed. Then the Luthari representative stepped forward. "I say we offer them a seat." Another pause. Then another voice. "I agree." And then another. And another. Until, for the first time in history, the Galactic Council voted to grant full membership to a species that had risen from nothing, to a species that had built itself in secret and had taken the entire galaxy by surprise. Back on Earth, Ambassador Rachel Voss received the message. She read it once, then again. Then she stood before the cameras and gave the announcement. "The Galactic Council has offered full membership to humanity." The world exploded into cheers. Not because they needed approval, but because it proved what they already knew. They had earned their place, not through begging, not through luck, but through strength, through unity, through fire. Later that night, Harper sat in his quarters aboard the United Earth, reading messages from across the fleet. Daniel Cruz had sent a short note. "We did it, sir. We showed them who we are." Isaac Brooks had written more. "The people believe in us. Not just the soldiers. Everyone. We've given them hope." Choi had added a single line. "Now the real work begins." Delgado had sent a video, footage of engineers building new labs, doctors setting up clinics on Mars, teachers training students in deep space survival. Life went on, because that's what humans did. They lived, they grew, they rose, even in the face of impossible odds. Harper closed the messages and looked out the window. Beyond the stars, the fleet remained, silent, strong, ready, not because they feared war, but because they wanted peace. And they had shown the galaxy that peace could only be kept by those strong enough to defend it. As the United Earth drifted in orbit, Harper stood up. He walked to the bridge, he looked at his crew, and he spoke. We started as whispers in the dark. Now we are thunder in the sky. We were ignored. We were mocked. We were underestimated. He paused. Now, the galaxy knows who we are. No one spoke, because no one needed to. The truth was clear. Humanity had risen, and it was never going back. The secret human fleet had taken the Galactic Council by surprise, and now the stars belonged to them.